There is a moment when the world around seems too loud, and then suddenly you hear two rivers flowing inside you. One is wide, strong, with the resonant echo of others' opinions, expectations, and rules. The other is quiet, like a spring in the forest, barely touching the shore of your heart. Notice this now, not as a problem, but as a natural fact, as the geography of the soul. In this sound is hidden both loss and opportunity. In this meeting is the beginning of choice. At first, awareness arises, empty fingers, even if your palms are busy. The image, a river that carries everything, others' ambitions, lists of what must be done, names of places to which one should go. The feeling, a slight tremor in the chest, like the whisper of the wind anticipating a storm. From this fragile combination is born a question that can vibrate like a string. Who wrote this map of my life? Allow yourself to feel this vibration. Do not reject it. In the quiet space between the two streams, there is an opportunity to look at your true self, not as a set of roles, but as a source of light that chooses its direction. There is a second scene, when the first river loudly dictates, and we, unwilling to resist, flow along its current. The image, a city square at rush hour, where everyone speaks at once, and in the hustle, personal rhythm is lost. The feeling, heaviness in the chest, as if stones instead of hands are in your pockets. And then, inside awakens a weak, solitary voice, the very spring that knows the simplicity of our truths. It reminds that emptiness in our hands is not always a misfortune. Sometimes, it is an invitation to hold only what warms you. Be with this feeling. Trust it like a quiet compass that demands no loud proof. The problem many do not notice is not that the first river is strong, but that its greatness obscures the vision of the second stream. The image, fog rising over the river, hiding the spring. The feeling, confusion, bewilderment, as if steps lose their footing. This is not the world's fault. It is a consequence of the skill to hear your own rhythm fading. Notice, your inner voice does not compete with external voices. It meets them, sometimes agrees, sometimes is silent, but always remains your true guide. Allow this thought to settle, like morning light on water. The promise of this moment is not a radical renunciation of one river for another, but a mysterious ability to discern when to listen to the broad march of the crowd and when to lean towards the quiet source. The image, a bridge connecting the banks. Sometimes it is worth crossing it. Sometimes, standing in the middle and listening to how the water flows below. The feeling, a slight tension, turning into clarity. You will be able to feel your preferences not as imposed, but as your own. This will be the inner change. Trust this promise as if holding a seed in your hand, ready to sprout. And still, do not think that the path is simple. The current of the first river holds comfort and direction that seems obvious to many. The image, a sunlit road where the traces of ancestors are visible. The feeling, warmth, and at the same time doubt. Will you not lose your place among those walking it? But if you listen closely, the second voice does not demand renunciation. It whispers how to walk along the edge of the road so as not to lose yourself. Be attentive to this whisper. It does not accuse, it offers a choice. Allow it to guide you gently. At the end of this first encounter, one wants to leave a light impulse, a short breath that will open the door to a journey. Slow down for a moment. Feel both rivers. Do not reject either. Let this be the beginning, a quiet promise within. Allow yourself to hear and discern. A gentle inhale. Allow yourself to listen. Now is the time when noise has become our new weather. It envelops like a thick fog, obscures outlines, and stealthily alters the direction of the wind. In this constant sound field, it's easy to forget that somewhere deeper, beneath the surface, flows another river, quieter and more honest. Notice, the reason this topic is important today is not due to dramatizing modernity, but in the simple fact, our ability to choose weakens when we live in the rhythm of external expectations. The image, a leaf carried by water. The feeling, a slight dizziness of choice. Stay close to this thought, not as an accusation, but as an opportunity to return to yourself. The contrasts here are sharp. On one side, acceleration, crowds of advice, likes, and fleeting authorities. On the other, a slowing down that asks for the inner voice. Imagine two landscapes, a metropolis with neon, and an eternal forest with your quiet stream. The feeling from the first, excitement and fatigue at the same time. From the second, coolness and clarity. This contrast is not merely aesthetic, it is deeply practical. In the noise, we make decisions that serve not our center, but expectations. Allow yourself to see this difference as a map, not a verdict. You are not alone in this. Many seem to walk along already paved paths. Schools, standards, family scripts. All these are languages of the first river. The image, the rails along which a train rolls. The feeling, an illusion of safety and simultaneously emptiness in the hands. But among the crowd, there are those who have heard the source, who quietly change their routes, who choose not because everyone does, but because their heart responds. Notice this as a comfort. There are people around who are also learning to hear themselves. Be this reminder to another, even if silently. Why is it particularly important to listen now? Because each loss of the inner voice is a small death. The habit of making decisions dies. The sense of meaning dies. The ease of choice dies. The image, a withered tree when spring blooms around. The feeling, dullness that gradually becomes familiar. And yet, in this field, there is another truth. Restoration is not always dramatic. It often occurs as a quiet growth from below the ground. Allow yourself this hope. Small changes, one gentle adjustment of direction, and the world begins to respond with new colors. The philosophical thread here is thin. Truth is not absolute. Both rivers carry values. The first river, collective knowledge, the experience of generations, structure, and landmarks. The second, profound truth, uniqueness, and a sense of enough. Imagine them as two tones in music. One sets the rhythm, the other, the melody of the soul. The feeling, richness, if you learn to hear the counterpoint. This understanding removes the binary. Not either, or, but both, and. Be attentive to this harmony, for wisdom is born within it. The connection with you is soft, yet persistent. At some point, you will stop and realize that you are living by a map drawn by someone else. The image, an old map on the table where the inscriptions have worn away. The feeling, anxiety, and simultaneously relief. Anxiety from losing control, and relief from realizing the possibility to start redrawing. Notice this as an invitation, not as an accusation. It is an invitation to understand when wise advice is needed, and when the inner voice asks to be heard. Trust this invitation, like a traveler trusts the light of a lighthouse. This topic is not just a personal matter. It's a question of our time. How to create lives that resonate with us, rather than just with the external rhythm. The image, a flock of birds changing course by the wind, yet maintaining an internal order of flight. The feeling, responsibility, light, and inspiring at the same time. We become bolder, not through external struggle, but through quiet fidelity to ourselves. Allow this understanding to settle within, like a warm stone by the fire. Entering this conversation, allow yourself to feel both rivers, not as enemies, but as companions that take turns leading, teaching, and sometimes arguing. The feeling from their meeting, a melody that can help you walk honestly and softly. And at the end of this introduction, a short breath that reminds, listen, discern, pause, a quiet inhale. Trust yourself. In our bodies, there often lives a feeling that we are vessels through which someone else's water flows. At first, there comes a sense of light presence. At a party, in school, at a family dinner. The voice of society sets the tone. It is not a malicious voice. It is the rhythm, the habit, the width of the road traveled by many. The emotion here is a warm, but sometimes burdensome feeling of belonging, like lying on the bank of a great river and feeling its weight on your body, both cozy and pressuring. Imagine a scene, a morning in a big city, trams running on schedule, billboards smiling, and in the kitchen, over a cup of coffee, there is a voice that sounds not like a request, but like a law. That's how it's done. Everyone does it. You must. And these words fall on you like rain. The story can be personal. A mother who told you as a child that stability is more important than passion. A teacher who praised those who followed the beaten path. A friend who advises against taking risks. Such voices become a map, sometimes useful, sometimes stifling. Note, in this map there is a safety line, and many of us feel gratitude within it. But alongside gratitude comes a slight emptiness, like someone has replaced your pulse with a metronome. The practical step here is gentle, requiring no heroism. Start observing which words are repeated most often and where they come from. Allow yourself to compile a list of those directives that truly warmed your heart and those that have remained mere habit. Do not reject the entire river. It carries the experience of ancestors, organizations, traditions, but learn to mark the waves that match your temperature. In everyday life, this may look like a simple practice. Before an important decision, take a pause and quietly ask yourself, whose voice is this? Sometimes, the answer points to a parental script. Sometimes, to a media narrative. Sometimes, to a societal myth. Reflection offers a gentle turn. The social river is a resource and support, not a sentence. Its greatness lies in that it provides structure, language, and concepts. But if you allow it to be your sole navigator, you risk losing the nuances of your own origin. We can learn to engage in dialogue with this river, listening to its advice, taking what is useful, leaving behind the unnecessary, approaching its bank with respect, but not entering the water when something inside pulls you in a different direction. Allow this reflection to settle, like the morning mist that gradually dissipates under the first sun. If you close your eyes now and envision a map of life, it will be marked with roads, cliches, outlined expectations. These are the traces of the first river. Sitting by its bank is not a betrayal of oneself. It is an act of attentiveness. And if you have not yet felt the freedom to choose, start small. One refusal of the automatic opinion. One quiet choice in favor of what seems right to you, even if it does not align with the mainstream. A small step is like a stone thrown into the water. The ripples spread, and on them, one can learn to read the direction. Trust is born not in the moment of loud protest, but in the sequence of quiet decisions. Notice that sometimes we argue with the river, sometimes we swim towards it. Sometimes we simply stand by the bank and listen to its whisper. Allow yourself to be flexible. Take the morning light from it, without losing the spark of your own source. A gentle impulse. Slow down and see what voices you carry within you. Allow yourself to differ from the crowd, starting with one sincere choice. That quiet spring nearby is the very voice that appears like a breath in an empty room. The emotion associated with it is surprise and, at times, fear. Surprise at the realization that there is still a place inside that is untouched by outside directives. Fear from the awareness of the responsibility that comes with the freedom to hear oneself. This voice does not require loud words. It speaks through sensations, images, a gentle tension in the chest that suggests, "This is mine," or conversely, "This is not mine." Recall the moment when you suddenly stopped and realized that the path you were on was not yours. It can be a simple story. Summer, a trip to the sea, and in the office you feel that you're breathing differently. Or an evening when you look at childhood photos and suddenly feel that you should try another profession. These episodes are like springs. They are quiet, but constant. They may seem weaker than the first river, but their strength lies in their depth. They do not scream and do not demand immediate action. More often, they offer a gentle direction that can be explored like a path in the woods. The practical advice here is simple and gentle. Start by giving yourself space for silence. This is not always solitude in the mountains. It is small practices. 5 minutes of breathing in the morning, a notebook by the bed to catch your first thoughts, a short walk without headphones. Allow your voice to sound first like a whisper. Do not rush to decisions. Write down what you want to do, not because it is right, but because a quiet curiosity burns inside. Remember that the inner compass shows the direction, but does not always provide a ready map. The map is drawn, step by step. Philosophically, this reminds me of the old saying, "Listen to your heart, but keep your head." The subtle difference is that to listen does not mean to obey immediate emotion. It means to create conditions where the voice can unfold. This voice is a source of personal truth, respecting details and sensitivity. If you start to treat it as a companion rather than a conductor, you will be able to gently integrate its hints into everyday life. It will help you choose not always the most noticeable, but the truest steps. Look at your inner voice as a stream that carves its way through stones. It is not always fast, but over time it carves a channel. Your task is to be an observer and sometimes a guide, not to interfere, not to block, just gently remove obstacles. If you are afraid, allow the fear to be. Do not reject it. It is also part of the voice, its boundary and protection. The task is not to let fear govern all decisions, but to use it as an indicator of depth. A small reminder, every step, no matter how quiet it is a confirmation of your voice. Allow yourself to start small. One action, one choice, one gentle boundary. These steps are like drops that over time form a stream. Let this be your quiet impulse. Bestad. Write it down. Trust the very first spark of curiosity, harmony between a big river and a quiet stream is not a goal achieved once and for all. It is a constant art of subtle balancing. The emotion here is serenity, which breaks through the tension when you see that two forces can support each other. Imagine a bridge that you build step by step. It does not separate the shores from each other. It connects them. In this image, there is both softness and strength. The story could be this: a person who worked in a system where only quantity and speed were valued begins to notice that in the evenings, he is inspired to draw. He does not quit his job immediately. He starts going to the studio 2 evenings a week. Over time, this passion ceases to be a secret and becomes part of his life. It gives meaning, nourishment, different colors. This example shows that integration is possible, not through extremes, but through small, steady steps. You do not have to choose everything or nothing. You can afford to have both rivers if you learn to distribute your attention. The advice in this section is practical and gentle. Develop a ritual of meeting with yourself and the world. Maybe it's a morning hour for clarity, when you ask, "What is mine today?" And an evening for reflection. What came to me from the surroundings today? Place these rituals in your schedule as care for the road surface between the rivers. When external demands are louder, use short points of support: breathing, writing, talking to a close person. Do not strive for perfect harmony. It is changeable like water. Strive for a dialogue that allows you to hear both directions. The philosophy of this path is simple. Both rivers are valuable, and in harmony, richness is born. This is not a rejection of responsibility to society, but the ability not to lose yourself in that responsibility. Look at your life as a garden, where different plants require different care. Sometimes, a strict pruning of career branches is needed. Sometimes, gentle watering of creative sprouts. Trust the ability of the soil, your inner wisdom, to adapt growth if you provide even attention. Let it be a useful exercise. Create a map of your sources. What gives you energy? What takes it away? Mark what demands come from the outside world, which from within. Notice the intersections and areas of conflict, and most importantly, start small. Remove one source of compromise that consumes more than it gives. Add one small ritual that nourishes your inner stream. These steps are not dramatic, but they create a canvas of harmony. In the end, a gentle conclusion. The ability to hear both rivers is a skill that grows like a tree if it is watered with attention. Allow this feeling to settle within you like a quiet lighthouse. You are not alone in this quest, and your task is not to conquer one river over the other, but to learn to walk across the bridges between them. A small impulse. Start with one ritual of meeting with yourself. Keep one moment of silence during the day. When two forces flow side by side, it's easy to forget that the streams can change direction, accelerate, and become murky. The emotion here is anxiety, which many feel when realizing, I can drown not only in someone else's opinion, but also in my own inner noise if I'm not careful. Imagine a strong spring river after rain. The water rises, the currents become swift. Windows of opportunity open, but the underwater rocks become more dangerous. Awareness of risk is not paranoia, it is care. The story may sound like this. When a person suddenly discovered that their inner voice was a mix of childhood desires and fears instilled by the past, they decided to follow this voice blindly. At first, it seemed like a path to authenticity, but soon it became clear that part of this voice was merely a reaction to old wounds. The result? A lost year, several wrong decisions, and a desire to return to simplicity, to listen more clearly. These stories teach that the inner voice is not always pure. It, like water, absorbs the salt of the past and may require filtration. A practical tip in such cases is to learn to recognize signals and filter them. Get into the habit of asking clarifying questions. Where does this feeling come from? What memories resonate? What feels like a duty to me? And what feels like genuine attraction? Use daily checking practices. Write down your motives. Discuss them with a trusted person. Try small experiments before making decisive steps. Do not be afraid of rethinking. This is not a defeat. It is cleaning the riverbed, without which the river cannot flow clearly. Reflection leads to another important point. Sometimes the danger does not come from the rivers, but from our attempt to control them. A rigid desire to subject both flows to one plan creates tension and loss of flexibility. Water teaches flexibility. It seeks a path, flows around obstacles, sometimes turning back, sometimes rising into steam. Allow yourself to be less of a conductor and more of a gardener, removing weeds, releasing excess water, but not breaking the riverbed. This is a subtle difference between control and care. A small practical rule. When you feel lost, return to simple breathing and 3 little questions. What do I continue to do now? What is imposed on me? What can I check tomorrow? These 3 steps are like a simple rescue net. They do not solve all problems, but provide space for choice. And finally, a gentle call to action. Do not demand immediate answers from yourself. Start with one recurring step that helps to cleanse your inner flow. Here, where words meet actions, I want to suggest not a system of rules, but a set of light rituals, ones that can be woven into the most ordinary day and observed as they gently change the tone of the inner river. Imagine this as a map for 1 week, not to strictly follow, but to allow yourself to feel how your voice sounds in real circumstances. Morning ritual of silence, 5 to 10 minutes. Allow the morning to be the beginning of observation, not to decide fate, but to notice the first shades of desire. Sit or stay in bed, close your eyes, guide your breath around, and quietly ask, what resonates with me today? Do not demand an answer immediately. Let an emotion, image, or bodily sensation arise and pass. It's like a noise check. If the voice is clear, it will remain. If it came from outside, it will dissolve. Daytime intention marker, 1 to 2 minutes between tasks. At the moment of transition from one task to another, make a small mark. Mentally write down a word that feels like your support right now. Clarity, tact, curiosity. This is not a plan, but a point of focus, like a beacon on the shore. Such marks help you not get lost in the flow of obligations and maintain a connection with your inner source. Try to imagine the mark as a small pebble in your palm. It is light, but it exists. Evening summary, 5 to 15 minutes. Before going to sleep, allow yourself to be the day's archivist. Write down 3 short things. What came from the external world, what resonated within, and 1 small step you took toward your voice, even if it was minimal. Keeping such a summary is not a report for others, but a way to see where the bridges between rivers lie. Over time, these notes will become a mirror where you will see patterns and gently adjust your course. Micro-plan for the week. 3 simple steps. Day 1, Tower 2. Observation. The goal is to note where decisions come from. 3 notes a day. Whose voice was heard and what body belongs to that voice. This exercise is not for judgment, but for curiosity. Day 3 down to 4. Experiment with a small difference. One quiet choice that diverges from expectation, and one note on how it felt. Not for conflict, but for checking. What if differently? Day 5007. Integration. Choose a ritual that really warmed you, morning, marker, or evening summary, and anchor it twice a day. Pay attention to how the tone changes over 3 consecutive days. How to track progress and maintain inspiration. Start with simple indicators: frequency of notes, feeling of ease when making decisions, number of times you can name the reason for a choice. Keeping a diary is a key tool. Through the notes, recurring themes, repeated voices, stalling, and discoveries appear. You can use a simple table. Date, source of the loud voice. What resonated in this small step. After a week, you will see the structure. After a month, the trend. This is not for assessment, but for attention. Supporting practices for those days when motivation wanes. Short meetings with nature, 5 minutes by the window, a walk around the house, a deep breath on the stairs. A conversation with a trusted person, a few phrases about your state, not for advice, but for reflection. Gentle limitation. Try for one day to reduce the consumption of informational noise. Less social media, a bit more silence. These practices act as a filter. They reduce the intensity of the first river without drying it up. They provide a space where the stream becomes clearer. The motivation machine. Habit and kindness. Inspiration is not an eternal resource. It's like the wind. Sometimes it blows, sometimes it fades. Therefore, it's useful to cultivate habits and treat yourself with gentleness. Set up a system of small rewards. Wrote the evening summary. Tea with your favorite flavor. Noted a small step. 5 minutes of favorite music. Made an intention marker. Stretched and smiled at yourself. This is not external motivation, but a lamp that warms the inner path. How to transfer practices to real life. A sample day. Morning, 5 to 10 minutes of silence, plus intention marker before the first task. Day, once every 3 hours, a short mark before a task. Evening, 5 to 15 minutes of summary and journal entry. If the day is busy, allow yourself a shortened version, 1 morning and 1 evening practice. The main thing is regularity, not perfection. When doubt arises, how to check the purity of your voice. Conduct small experiments and note your body's reaction. Relief, anxiety, expansion. All these are indicators. Give time, a week or a month of testing, and observe if the sense of meaning grows. Discuss your notes with an understanding person. Often an external perspective helps filter old wounds and discover recurring patterns. And finally, a gentle invitation to action. Start today, not with loud changes, but with 1 breath of morning silence or 1 note before sleep. Allow the step to be tiny, but regular. Let your plan be not a list of prohibitions, but a web of supports that uphold your inner compass. If you want to stay close and receive the next inspiring days, it would be warm if you subscribe to the channel and like this video, so we can move forward together. May there now remain a light aftertaste of presence, a quiet stone in your palm, reminding you, you are listening, and that is enough. And here comes the final scene. Not a triumph of resolution, but a gentle glow after a long day. In this moment, we do not wish to summarize in the form of a list, but to weave the threads. 2 rivers continue to flow, but now you can discern their tones. noticing when one calls stronger and when the other sends a quiet hint. The emotion in this moment is gratitude for the opportunity to see, for the language that has emerged for distinction, for the little freedom that daily rituals provide. If we return to the image we heard at the beginning, two rivers within us, we can now envision a bridge along which you are learning to walk. The bridge is not built once and for all. It grows with each step, with each recorded evening, with each mark of intention. Sometimes the bridge seems wobbly, sometimes sturdy. Therein lies the wisdom, not to demand constant certainty of yourself, but to trust the process. The story of each step, it is valuable in its simplicity. Once you chose the quiet trial of distinction, and it slowly changed the tone of the conversation within. We have traveled from awareness to practice, and from practice to gentle mastery. It is essential to remember that neither of the rivers is an enemy. The first river is the memory of generations, the language of society, the frameworks that provide support. The second is the deep compass, a melody unique to each heart. When they argue, it is not necessary to wage war. One can learn to listen, shift the accents, give each ritmo, each boot its role. This journey is not the story of one step, but a series of attentive pauses in which you gather your map. A quiet conclusion. The goal is not to forever decide which river is more important, but to feel your ability to choose. To be at peace with both rivers means allowing yourself to make mistakes, to learn, and to return to yourself with gratitude. This choice does not require loud declarations. It is measured in small movements, in 5 minutes of silence, in a mark before the task, in an evening summary. They may be quiet, but they have the power to change the tone of life. I want to leave one more reminder about softness. When the inner voice sounds unclear, allow yourself to slow down. Do not demand an answer now. Often silence is not emptiness, but preparation for the next response. Accept your imperfections as part of the journey. Freedom comes through understanding, and understanding through patience. Like a gardener watching growth, not demanding immediate blooming, be attentive to the seasonality of your desires. And finally, a warm gesture towards the future. The journey continues. It does not end with this video. It stretches like a quiet path in the woods, calling you to go further. If this journey feels important, allow yourself to stay in it gradually. Start with one small ritual. Support yourself with gentle kindness. And remember that each day is a chance to hear your voice a little clearer. If you wish to continue this exploration together, it would be warm if you subscribe to the channel and like the video, so you won't miss the next day of inspiration. Let the last words be a quiet breath of hope. You are not alone in this awareness, and your inner river will find its course.